Hello, everybody. We have people just joining us, and we'll get started here in just a few moments. So, hello, everybody. Welcome again to Lunch with the League. As you probably know, this is our attempt. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Julie Rodewald, the Voter Services Director for the League of Women Voters of San Luis Obispo County. And this is part of our effort to encourage our citizens to register, learn, and vote. And today we'll be talking about voter registration and some other things. We'll be talking about electioneering, poll watching, and exit polling. So just a reminder, the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization, which means that we do not support or oppose police or candidates. Just a couple of housekeeping items. You can submit your questions in chat or Q&A. I'll be monitoring both of those. The sessions are being recorded, so if you miss a session, you can go back and watch it. And those are available on our website, on our YouTube channel, and Facebook. And I wanted to send a big thanks to Laura Albers, who was the guest host last week, and our guest, Tommy Gong, talked, and they had some really good information talking about some common election myths, and hopefully dispelled some of those myths in everybody's minds. So here we are, 22 days away from the election. Oops, I went too far. Big question right now. Have you received your vote by mail ballot? Ballots were mailed out to every registered voter on September 27th. So you should have already received yours. And if you haven't, you should contact the elections department right away to get a replacement ballot. The number is 805-781-5228, or you can go to their website, which is slowvote.com. And there you can also sign up for Where's My Ballot? And just remember that that's a good thing to do, because whether you drop your voted ballot into a Dropbox or put it in the mail or take it back into the office, if you sign up for Where's My Ballot, you're going to get notification that it's been received and that it's eligible to be counted. Very important for you to follow that all the way through. So I wanted to share with you some stats that I heard from Tommy Gong on Saturday. We now have over 182,000 registered voters. That's 10,000 more registered voters than we had in the 2018 midterm elections. And as of Saturday, at least 30,000 vote by mail ballots have been received. So voters are getting the word. Get out and vote early and get your ballot in so that it can be processed in a timely manner and be ready for counting when they start doing the counting. Just a reminder that the voter registration deadline is October 19th, so it's a week from today. And you can use the resources at slowvote.com to either register, to check your status, or again, to sign up for Where's My Ballot. And if you register online, then the deadline is going to be midnight on October 19th. But if you're registering with a form that you can get at the post office, then that must be postmarked by the 19th in order for you to be eligible. But again, we really encourage you, don't wait till the last minute. Get your registration in. Once you get your registration in, if you've moved, change your address, you should be receiving your ballot in about 5 days. So let's talk about some registration frequently asked questions. So one question that we often get is, I have 2 residences, where should I register? And the California Elections Code recognizes that people can have multiple residences, but they only have one domicile. And the domicile is kind of your fixed place of where you always intend to return. And some of the rebuttable presumptions that we have for what constitutes your domicile is, what's the address on your voter registration or your vehicle registration? or where do you get your property tax exemption if you own your home? So those are some things to keep in mind. If you're in California, the statewide database doesn't allow you to register in 2 different counties. One of those is going to get canceled when you complete a registration in a new county. But if your residences are in another state, we don't have that same check across state borders. But it's up to you to determine which of those residences is your domicile for voting purposes. What about I'm a college student? Can I register to vote at my school address? And it's basically the same answer. A student can definitely register to vote at the address where they live when they're attending school, or they can choose to keep their registration at their parents' home where they return maybe for summers and for other vacations. It's really up to them. But one of the things that we really stress is if you're going to, wherever you're going to register, make sure that either your parents know to forward the information to you, or that you put your school address as your mailing address so that the voting materials come directly to you. And the other thing that's important for students to remember is you need to re-register every time you move. Oftentimes, everybody knows you don't live in the same dorm room for 4 years. So if you move out of the dorms, you need to re-register and get your new residence on file with the county elections office. And then another question is, I don't have a home. Can I still register to vote? And as we've talked about before, yes, those that don't have a fixed permanent address, meaning an abode where they live, can register to vote, as long as the elections department can pinpoint a place where they spend most of their time, or where they spend their nights, and they have a mailing address. So those are the only requirements. Is you need to have a fixed place that you can be placed at, so that the elections office knows what ballot you should get. Are you in the city limits? What school district are you eligible to vote on? Those are the kinds of answers that we need by being able to pinpoint you. And then we need to be able to send you voting material. So I want to talk a little bit about, after last week's session, there was a question about poll watchers that didn't get answered. And so I thought it would be a good time to kind of talk about poll watchers and some other topics: electioneering, poll watchers, and exit polling. And this is really important. This is in the Voter Bill of Rights, for the California Voter Bill of Rights. You have the right to cast a secret ballot without anyone bothering you or telling you how to vote, which is essentially what electioneering is about. Electioneering is the visible display or audible dissemination of information that advocates for or against any candidate or measure on the ballot within 100 feet of a voter service center, an elections official's office, a ballot drop box, or satellite location. And that's described in this elections code. Now, one thing to realize is, now that we have drop boxes throughout the county, there's 21 of them throughout the county, nobody can be electioneering within 100 feet of those drop boxes. So if you go to deposit your ballot in one of the drop boxes, there shouldn't be people standing there saying, you should vote for this proposition, or you should vote for this candidate. That has to be more than 100 feet away, because you should be able to deposit your ballot into a secure drop box without anyone bothering you or telling you how to vote. That's the Voter Bill of Rights. And types of electioneering include wearing t-shirts, hats, pencils, handing out pencils, showing signs, bumper stickers, campaign buttons. Even if you're not talking about how somebody should be voting, you can't be displaying anything that encourages a vote for or against a candidate, or for or against a ballot measure. And that also includes speeches and recordings. So if you see it, report it. If it's happening at a voter service center, when you go to vote during those 4 days of voting, immediately report it to the voter service center coordinator. And if it's happening at any time, I mean, voting's been going on since last Monday. If you see it at the drop boxes, if you see it in front of the county elections office, definitely report it first to the county elections office to give them an opportunity to send someone out and let the people know that what they're doing is not allowed under the elections code. And then you can also report to the Secretary of State hotline. So what is a poll watcher? I think everybody's been hearing about poll watchers. We're going to be sending poll watchers out to the polls. So one thing to know is due to COVID-19, all poll watchers must wear face coverings and observe social distance requirements. That's for this election. So what can a poll watcher do? And typically poll watchers come from campaigns or political parties. And one of their purposes was to not only watch the proceedings, but they could also look at what was called the outside index, which is an index of voters that were assigned to that polling place. And every hour on the hour as a voter would appear to vote, their name would get crossed off that list. Now with voter service centers, we don't have that same thing, but the poll watchers with those lists could then contact voters and say, I see that you haven't cast your ballot yet. Make sure, today's election day, make sure you get out and vote. That's changed a little bit because of our voter service centers, but the poll watchers may still observe the proceedings, including opening and closing. So they can be there before the polls open for voters, and they can be there after the polls close to voters, so that they can observe, what's happening, what procedures are they following to open the voter service center and get the equipment ready. And then what are they doing with the ballots at the end of the day? How are they securing those? How are they securing all the equipment? Those are the procedures that they can then watch. And they can ask questions of the voter service center's workers about what's happening now. Why did that voter, why was that voter required to vote a provisional ballot? Or why did you ask that voter for their ID? But what poll watchers may not do is they may not be in the area of the voting booths or the workers' table. They can't sit at the table with the workers at the voter service center. And they cannot interfere with the election process in any way or a worker's ability to perform their duties. So if their questions get to be constituting interference, the worker can say, I need you to direct all your questions to the voter service center coordinator so that I can continue to process voters as they come in. They cannot interfere with a voter's ability to cast a ballot in secret or challenge a voter's right to vote. And this is really important. There are reasons why a voter can be challenged. Some of them include they're not 18, they're not a citizen of the United States, they don't reside in this county, nor do they intend to continue to reside in the county. They've already voted a ballot. But those challenges are only available to the people that are working at the voter service center. And one thing that we tell our workers is never send a voter away without casting a ballot. The voter always has the right to cast a provisional ballot. And if you're challenging their right to vote, write what the challenge is on that envelope, and then the elections office can investigate it and determine whether or not that voter is eligible to vote. But a poll watcher cannot, or any other citizen cannot challenge a voter's right to vote. And then the poll watchers cannot wear campaign hats, buttons, etc., in violation of the law that's governing electioneering. And there is a guide, that was the question that came up. There is a guide for poll watchers available on slowvote.com. So exit polling, what is exit polling? That is talking to a voter after the voter has voted and left the voter service center about topics relating to the election. typically the media or maybe some kind of a polling organization that is doing exit polling, and it must be done at least 25 feet from the exit to the poll. And exit polling is not electioneering, but at the voter service center, a voter walking in may overhear exit polling taking place and think that that's electioneering. And we tell the workers that exit polling is allowed, but you can certainly ask them to step further out of the way of incoming voters so that incoming voters aren't privy to the conversations that you're having. And the other thing for people to recognize is you don't have to tell anybody how you vote. If somebody approaches you after you've cast your ballot and says, I'm doing the survey, how did you vote on this proposition? You're not required to tell them how you voted, because you have the right to cast a secret ballot. And if you want that to remain secret, then nobody can force you to tell them. It's up to you as to whether or not you want to share that information. And I did have a Q&A here. One person asked regarding electioneering, there are numerous political signs, including mine, on private property at the bottom of the driveway leading to the Atascadero Library, where there is a drop box, probably very close, if not less than 100 feet. Who should measure and, if necessary, contact the candidates and or the property owner? So that's the responsibility of the, and I have to say, I was up at the Atascadero office about a week ago, and I noticed all those political signs down there. It's up to the county clerk's office is up there. I will alert them to check for those. I think that they're probably outside the 100 feet. I don't know exactly where the drop box is, but it's up to the voter service coordinator to measure that. We give all of our coordinators tape measures so that they can measure off 100 feet. And there should be signs posted at that 100-foot mark, so you know that that anything outside of that. But because now we're having drop boxes, people may not be aware that it's also 100 feet from those drop boxes. So I will mention that that they should check that and make sure that those signs are more than 100 feet. And it doesn't make any difference if it's on private property. If you live across the street, a narrow street from a voter service center, and the drive-by drop-off for that voter service center is on the sidewalk, and you have a sign in your front yard, they can request, in fact, require that you take that sign down because you're within 100 feet. So the private property rights, you don't have a right to post those signs just because they're on private property. If you're within that 100 feet, you cannot have campaign signs up there. So that's the only question that I have. Let me see, I think we're at the end. Yes, join us next week for I Missed the Deadline. Wow, that one went fast. I missed the deadline, can I still vote? And I want to continue the conversation about not only electioneering and others and the other topics, but also about voter intimidation and what's not, what are the penalties for voter intimidation? What's not allowed under the voter intimidation laws in California? We'll be talking about the California laws. Again, send in any questions that you might have to voterservice@lwbslo.org. Follow us on Facebook. And always, for the information about the election, always visit slowvote.com to get the accurate and up-to-date information. So I'm going to stop my share. I don't see, oh, there's one question in chat. You left out the word out, was in without. So I'm going to have to go back and see where that was. If you want to send me more information, I appreciate that. I don't think there were any other questions coming up. So if nobody has any other questions, then everybody gets out of school early today, including me. I must have talked really fast. Again, thank you for joining with us during our half an hour now, about 20 minutes or so. I appreciate you coming back, and hopefully you'll continue to meet with us. We have 4 more sessions left, and we look forward to continuing to impart information to you. So hope we'll see you all soon or next week. Take care, everybody.